he had everybody go there.
Good. I go to the action sign.
Let me do what I want to do here. He had all of the congressional members go out to his house. So they had said that there were going to be 40 congressional members and I thought it was going to be all Congress members, but it was. their staff.
Once you
They
do it a
brought
couple
their
times,
own-
it'll be in your head.
Their own camera guys.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It was like, holy cow.
Okay. But now I don't get a page number
Morning.
unless I go.
No, but it
this.
takes you right to the document.
Okay.
So it was, did you, and then they said the lighting at the North Pine Government, they said, what a perfect one for
that.
audio, you know, and then the lighting and stuff.
Okay, I gotta
They were
find it
great
at the
for
end. Okay, so that's good.
Right, yeah.
Oh, no, 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 no. What did I do now?
Tell the engineer that.
I went back.
Do we want to do
don't
that
wanna
right
go
after
back.
the pledge?
Go
of
hit this again?
allegiance? Well, I'm gonna say
Yeah,
yes.
here we go.
Morning, Becky.
There, okay. Wait, I gotta. Thank you, Kelly. Kelly, I wasn't trying to, did you get my email yesterday? He called me. And I understood what you were saying. I don't think he understands, you know, but I think it's just the way his brain works.
Yeah.
You don't have anything to worry about. That's all. Yeah,
Because you spent such time on it.
yeah.
When I was talking to Charlie too yesterday, I said, I think that there was just some confusion, you know, so.
My Bob thing I told you about.
Oh, yeah, the
thing.
dual permitting issue that they're all worried about.
It's 10 o'clock. All right, it's 10 o'clock. We will call the meeting to order and rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So today, JJ is at the funeral for Florian Shimoleski. And so he's not with us today. And if we could take a couple moments of silence for Florian and his family. Thank you. He was a good representative for Pine County. Yeah. So we are going to start with public to talk today. You can flip a coin to see who gets to go first, I guess. Don't forget to state your name and where you're from, please.
All right. My name is Denise Weiss, Graston, Minnesota. I'm here asking the Pine County Board to consider an 18-month temporary moratorium for the industrial cultivation of adult cannabis and its processing effective immediately. Why is this so critically important? The former hydroponic Martin's Greenhouses located in Pine County listed for sale with the Turpin Realty Group is under a pending contract. During the Royalton Township meeting on April 30th, it was stated that the LLC group intending to occupy the property will be applying for a marijuana license, most likely under the Social Equity Division. This means licensings could go out as early as July 1st prior to the Minnesota legislation's ruling, which is not set until 2025. This was also confirmed by our Senator Jason Rarick. Greenhouses have a canopy size of roughly 33,000 square feet. The canopy size is important because some licenses include dispensaries. Models are saying 1 to 2 plants per square foot. This is thousands of plants in a continuous production. Our fear is that the social equity lottery license holders will be allowed to start up, run with no final ruling from the Minnesota legislation and potentially be grandfathered in. What will the value of this bring to the community? What will it devalue a community? What will it cost our community? These greenhouses are located less than 1,000 feet from residential homes, less than 1,000 feet from two roads where children stand for the school buses and live, affecting many residents. According to the EAP, the smells are especially strong during flowering and during the processing. For those who are sensitive, it may experience headaches, irritation, lungs, throat, and nausea. The offensive odors may be smelled miles away in prevailing winds. Many have said they cannot open their windows to this large-scale production. Please remember the OCM has an agenda to promote marijuana, not necessarily what is the best interest of a community. This is up to our board to review. Protected citizens of the county. It's still federally illegal. The USDA has not approved any marijuana for agricultural growing. It offers no food source, retail value to human or animal. Federal government has it listed as a Schedule I drug. This means the monies from the operation is cash only and cannot be federally deposited. Fox News nationally recently had a segment on the law enforcement issues that are occurring within at least 5 states decriminalizing this. That would be video 63, 48, 21, 67, 57, 112. It was pretty eye-opening. A moratorium would allow the county time to review any rules set forth by the Minnesota legislation in 2025, review how this will affect the general welfare of its citizens and circumstances under which land structures may be used. Without passing a temporary moratorium, I feel we run the risk of licensing going out under no rules, no county input, no citizen input. These decisions will have general effects on hundreds of residents. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You did well. Is Jack, are you ready? If you could state your name and where you're from, please.
Absolutely. My name is Jack Frechette, and my wife and I have a small heritage breed hog farm about 7 miles north of here in Mission Creek Township. I'm also the vice president of the Pine County Farmers Union, and it is in that capacity as an advocate for local farmers that I speak today. At a recent public comment period, a request was made for a moratorium on businesses in the cannabis production industry within the county. I just had the pleasure to speak with the individual who had voiced the requests, and there was no question that her concerns are real and must be addressed. She's also a very nice person. I also empathize with the sentiment that in times when it feels like much is changing quickly, it feels reasonable to take a pause and prevent change that may cause more harm than good. This is all reasonable. However, I, speaking for our union, am very concerned that there are unseen harms to such a moratorium that outweigh the benefits potentially offered by slow pacing. As a small meat producer, I understand intimately the David and Goliath struggle that my farm is in to compete with monopoly pork producers. People want to support a local farm, but it's difficult when they can get the product vastly cheaper at a chain grocery store. Even if the quality is inferior, price too often has to win the day. It wouldn't be overly dramatic to say that the monopolies have, for now, won when it comes to pork and chicken production in Minnesota. The same mistake does not have to be made with cannabis. As we speak, massive out-of-state companies are making attempts to get a piece of the new Minnesota market, and it is only thanks to a structured licensing program through the state that prioritizes Minnesotans that they have been barred. By impeding the creation and development of local cannabis farms, we only serve to further the interests of large companies. And at a time when we have the power to truly put the farmer back at the center of an industry in a way that has been robbed of so many other agricultural producers. Cannabis is here to stay in Minnesota, so let's make its economic impact an asset for small farmers and our rural communities more broadly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak at public forum? Seeing none. Thank you for coming, both of you. Can we have somebody, we need to adopt the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections?
Madam Chair, members of the board, just a couple of minor corrections on letter E. The minutes from the road tour meeting, if those could be updated to reflect that Chair Lundgren adjourned the meeting. And then item number 6 of the regular agenda is the budget update. Chart number 1 just had an error where the expenditures in the HHS show at 8%. They should be at 18%. And I'll cover that in my report on that, but I just wanted to note that correction. And then also just note that County Attorney Reese Frederickson is absent today.
Thank you.
I will move as amended.
Thank you, Matt. Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Thanks, Steve. We have a motion by Matt, a second by Steve. All those in favor, say aye.
All right,
Opposed? Motion carried. Then we have the minutes of April 16th, regular board meeting, the summary for publication, and then we also have the special meeting for the committee of the whole.
I'll move it. I'll move them.
Thanks, Steve.
Second.
Thanks, Josh. So we have a motion by Steve, a second by Josh. All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Minutes of boards, committees, and correspondence. So we have the minutes from the HRA EDA. We have the minutes from the surveyor's report and the zoning board minutes for information.
I'll move, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thanks, Josh. So we've got a motion by Matt, a second by Josh. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Second, opposed? Motion carried. And then we need to approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions on anything on the consent agenda? Nope. Okay, can we have a motion to approve?
could I just point out one thing?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
I was pleased when I see this $23,000 donation from
Mhm.
the Grand Casino. And I know we spend time there, but I think we need to note that every time it shows up.
That is a good one. So did we have a motion and a second for the consent? agenda?
With that, I'll move.
Thank you. Steve made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Matt. We have a motion by Steve, second by Matt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Regular agenda, Transportation Committee.
Yes, we met after the last meeting. Mark and JJ and I are on the committee. David was there taking notes. You can see in the minutes, JJ did bring up an item about some parking of a truck and the law enforcement. Jeff was there, Mark was there. They were gonna check into it, see what could be possibly done with that. Roger Nelson was there, a constituent from out east of Hinckley, wondering if something couldn't be done to his road. It was pointed out that it's a fairly low traveled road, 48 cars a day at our road count, so it kind of stays at that level of not getting a lot of attention. They did attempt to do some work on it several years ago and couldn't get people along the road to agree to a right-of-way agreement. And so they're gonna go back and check with that again. So Mark, do you have something you wanna?
Well, just the highlight, I guess, at the special meeting, you did approve the 5-year road program, so I want to mention that.
Thank you.
It's $445 million in projects, so it's a lot of money for Little Pine County, I think, to invest in their infrastructure. We were going to resurface 105 miles of pavements in that time period, so that keeps us in our goal of that maintaining our pavements in that 20-25 year range. So that's good. We're maintaining that. There's 5 deficient bridges that are getting replaced and kind of coming to the end on those. There's always one or here that'll pop up over time, but for the last 30 years, it's been a real push that you have invested in that aspect of our infrastructure. So we're gonna really be in good shape with that for the long term, because those are 75-year projects. So you don't have to come back in 20 or 25 years and replace them. So that's exciting for me. So I think that's kind of the main highlight of the meeting.
Mark, I want to point out, because people ask every once in a while, they think the roads are deteriorating, and they do deteriorate, but I believe we got about 450-ish miles of paved roads.
Yeah.
So if you do the math on that, at 20 to 25 years, we have to do in excess of 20 miles a year to make that rotation work. And when we're on the schedule to do that.
21, I think, one
Yeah.
of 5.
So but we have to remain disciplined because it's easy to see ourselves, to kick the can down the road. Well, if you kick the can down the road and miss 1 year,
Can't catch up.
now next year you gotta do 42 miles of road. And that's just about it. It just, we put ourselves in a hole. So Mark has a great plan and, these bridge projects as they've come up, I wanna just commend Mark for grabbing those federal funds, and I know it's a lot of work, Mark, to go through that, but you know, if we look at the County Road 2 bridge east of Rock Creek, that's a $1.8 million project. I just went over that bridge yesterday with my tractor, and it's like from here to the screen, you know, how can that be? But there's a lot of work, approach work that has to be done. But that's a federally funded project and it's administered by our highway department. So we can't afford to pass up those opportunities. So thanks.
Yep, and I just wanted to highlight our paved, so when this program is done, our entire paved system will be 10-ton. And so you won't be any postings if you're driving on a paved road in Pine County. None of those paved roads will be posted in the spring. And that was a goal, you know, since I started here, you know, almost 25 years ago, that how do we get there? And how do we pave our shoulders so people have a place to walk or bike, farm equipment, those types of things. And so your support as a board and administration is really, we're starting to see those goals met. And so then in 5 years, what's our next goal for our system? And you all get calls on, when is my road gonna get paved? I live on a gravel road, you know, and so I think we'll have the ability to start looking at some of that, you know, in 5 years out here. So that's kind of exciting to get to the next step of expanding our system. We have a couple trails in the program. Most of that's funded with federal and state dollars. So that's another highlight that we're able to draw that money in. And it's not really affecting our road program. So I think that was all I had for that.
I just want to say you just got a thumbs up for the weight of the roads, but from an excavator's wife. No.
Oh, yeah.
She's pretty excited.
Well, you know,
No,
and
restrictions
just
is a good thing.
every spring, someone wants to put in a well or a sewer and they're just waiting around, or, you know, agricultural deals, you know, so
Mhm.
you don't, I mean, not everybody has the privilege of living on a paved road. So there's that aspect of it, but still, it gets you closer to residences and things, makes it a little easier, so.
Madam Chair?
Uh-huh.
I just wondered, do you want to talk at all about the 123 turn back?
Oh, yeah. So at the meeting we talked about, so Trunk Highway 123 is up in Sandstone. I believe it goes out of town. And then it goes north and connects up with Trunk Highway 23 near Asco. And so we've been approached about taking that as a turn back. We've had some give and take. And they're proposing to give us a payment of $5.3 million. So a little bit more than I asked for. So I'm not gonna let them know that, but apparently
I love
want
it
to
when
give
the
us
state
some more money,
negotiates.
so I'm not gonna turn it down. And that's progressed, and so we said we're not taking the bridge. And so they'll keep the part in town that they have, and they'll keep the Kettle River Bridge, which is a very big bridge. It takes a lot of maintenance inspection. And so everything from within the city limits will maintain with the MnDOT. And so, we're left with about 6.5 miles of new road that we would have. And so what we talked about is we'd like to buy another tandem truck. We will be getting annual state aid increases, and so we're gonna add another staff member, a maintenance worker, so that we can kind of redo our plow route so that everybody gets a little bit less. We'll be able to be a little bit more efficient. So the whole county is gonna see some benefit out of that. And then take that 5 million that's left, invest that, and hopefully Kelly will give us the interest. I haven't negotiated that with her yet. But, you know, even 1% on 5 million is 50,000 a year, you know, and I would, yeah, we won't count on that. Yeah, but yeah, so that's a real positive. So we have cash flow coming in on that money, and then in about 10 to 15 years, we'll do part of that road. We'll do a resurface, and then in about 20 years, we do the rest of it because it's fairly new, some of that.
So I'm sure.
Mhm.
So when you improve is it the 2-digit, which ones are you bringing up to 20 ton?
The 10-ton?
Into-
Any,
Or
any,
10-ton, I mean,
any
yeah.
road that's paved, the
All of them?
county, state, yeah,
They're all being
any-
upgraded when you're
Yep,
doing it.
any
Okay.
3-digit numbers. So, yep,
Thank you.
yep. So I think it's a positive, and then what we asked for is essentially 2 resurfacings of those roads. And so we're looking, some of that money will be there for
Long
40
time.
40 years.
Mhm.
So, and that, we set that, we got cash flow, helps with the county's cash flow, helps with the highway department's cash flow, so I think it's a really good deal for us. And so you'll see probably an agreement or a resolution coming up here within the next month or so, so.
Thank you. I want to say thank you. The other day did I email you or call you and said that, I had a complaint on a road, or they were kind of concerned about it. And within that day, they were out there looking at it, and I was able to call the guy back the next day to tell him that you were there. And I think that just speaks volumes as to who our employees are and what they're willing to do.
Oh, absolutely.
And I just want to thank you. I don't think it's every county that can say that. And that it's a blessing to be able to be one of the counties that
Yeah,
can.
and like all the departments, I mean, our staff that I work with, we can't do anything without our staff. Nothing gets done. And so, and they show up on overtime, weekends, at night, return call, so it's not in their contract. They're not obligated to do that with the county, but they do it, so
Yeah.
it's appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep, thanks, Mark.
Land Advisory Committee. Do you want to start with that one, Matt?
Hmm?
Land Advisory Committee. Do you want to
Want
start
me to
with that
start it
one?
out?
Yeah, which,
All right, I can. Yeah, we had our meeting on the 5th, or, wait, no, that's not it. On there.
on April 29th.
I think that's the wrong date on there. Maybe.
Oh, is
We
it?
approved them. Okay, so we had our meeting, and the Greenlee cabin has been moved off the county property.
And he did it. We didn't have to do it. He did it.
What's
Yes.
that?
I said he did it. We didn't have to remove it. He
Right,
removed it,
right.
yeah.
He moved on his own.
Yeah.
The B&J service station in Henriette, that demolition happened on the day of our meeting, actually. And by the time we had our meeting, he said they were probably finishing up, so it didn't take them long. Had 13 bids for that. That cost was $4,900. And we had a discussion again on the land exchange we talked about last time when we reported on our meeting, and the profit land exchange. And we were putting that on hold. We're just not gonna take any action on that right now until we figure out the stuff. And then we had he had a petition from a landowner on the Sioux line that he trying to get access to his property crossing where we own that property out in Birch Creek or whatever. I'm not sure, but
Yep.
I do know, I just can't remember the township. I know where. it
You're
is,
right.
but-
You're right.
Yeah, anyway, so we came to the conclusion that we're gonna try to pursue an easement for him to get access to, put an easement across and however that works out. And then we went on to have an extended discussion on tax forfeit sale of the non-conforming lots and that policy, and trying to figure out, so we don't, we had that, who adjoining landowner issue or everybody issue, open it to everyone because it's a public sale. So it's gonna be kind of on a case by case basis and approved that way. Whatever's what makes the most sense, because some lots are just not. They'll never be anything. You can't do anything with them, so it's just easy to have them attach and become part of a parcel that's right there. So that's all I can remember.
We also did, we talked about strategic planning and where we're at with
Oh, yeah,
that.
yeah. Yes, go
So,
ahead.
so far, one of the things that we're talking about is the Memorial Forest dedicating it to veterans or like the Navy, the Army, or just trying to figure that out. And so Greg has been working with Mindy to figure out the best way to do that. We just think that would give praise to the people that deserve it,
Yep.
and the memorial that goes with that. So we're still going to be working on that, but that's part of the strategic planning. And then signage, Jen is going to be working with Greg to get the signage outlay. She does a really nice job, so it's going to be good to see how those turn out. And, just talking about how we're going to do the signage, we're going to have signage along the roads so that people know that that is Memorial Forest that they're driving by. But then at the accesses, we'll have a little bit more information at those so that they can see that. Greg and Joe have completed 6 camping sites and parking areas in Fleming Township at some of our land, and it was well used last year. The only complaint that he had is that people said they're not sure if they're going to come back because they're not seeing the deer because of the wolf population. But they all appreciated it and it has been used, so that was a good thing. And then on Crooked Lake in Wilma Township, they're putting in a parking area and a canoe access or kayak access. Matt knows that area well. I think you spent a lot of time out there. Yeah. And then cooperating with the Minnesota Deers Association, we're going to be doing a parking area on some of our property in New Dozy. And then they're looking at a tentative 3-acre clover pollinating planting in Munch Township on the land. You guys went through that big case with that to be able to get access back to our forfeited land a while ago. And so they're looking at doing a 3-acre plot out there for wildlife.
Cool.
And then we're going to be updating the land website once we find out what's going on with websites. So that's yet to come. And then the Memorial Forest Management Plan. I can't remember how much he said. Do you guys remember how much he said it would cost if we hired somebody to do it? Was it like 50? Okay, I was thinking I had 50 in my head, so it's a good thing I asked. So 20 to 30,000 to do that, but Greg has been able to get some of the plans from other counties. And so he's just going to go through those and figure it out for Pine County. And so he'll be working on that within the next 1 to 2 years to get us Memorial Forest Management Plan. But we do need today we have 2 issues that we need to approve today. And one of them is the sale of tax forfeited non-conforming lots policy, the one that Matt had been talking about. Can we do these together or should they be separate?
You could do them separate because the one is a resolution.
Okay. So can we have a motion to approve?
I will move that, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Matt. Can we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Steve. We have a first by Matt, second by Steve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And then the second one is to continue the set aside from the land and timber sale proceeds. We have 20% for park and recreations for both the land and the timber sales. And that one, we'll be using some of that to do the Memorial Forest updates or upgrades and getting the campsites in and that type of stuff. And then we talked about Overstar Trail too. We need to have money set aside for that. And then we have a 5% for blight cleanup from the land sales only, which is what we used cleaning up the gas station in Henriette as one of them. And then 5% for timber development from both the lands and the timber sale.
I'll move that, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Matt.
I'll second.
Thanks, Josh. So we got a first by Matt, a second by Josh. All those in favor, or are there any questions on it?
I got one.
Should be asking that, shouldn't I?
Is this a change?
No,
Nope.
Okay,
no, that's,
sounds good.
but it's the most that we can take for any of them.
Okay.
So.
I found my notes again. Terry, did you cover the campsites that were done too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I was searching when you were talking, so
No.
I lost my
Thank you.
notes for a minute there.
Thank you. Any other questions on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Jeff, do you want to do the donations? This is exciting too.
So Madam Chair, members of the board, I did ask this be put on the, excuse me, regular agenda so I could more publicly thank the people that were behind the donation. So it is a donation of 38 sets of hard plate body armor. That's level 4 rated, which is up to a 30 caliber armor piercing round. So the donation was headed up by some people over in Burnett County. Mitch Coyer and Mike Jenke were behind it. Squirrels Unlimited was the group that it was funded through. They're a nonprofit organization over there, kind of maybe sort of like Ducks Unlimited. Sort of.
thought
And
it
then
was
the
a
businesses
joke when I
behind
read
it were Mike and Mitch's, and it's Hummer's Rendezvous, Coyland Creek, Hunting Preserve over there, and then the Sirens Lions Club that were the promoters of it. And I didn't know it was coming at all. They called us and asked us how many sets we needed, and I went over there and picked up more than we needed. So really want to publicly thank them for that donation and the safety and the thought that it is for our county over here. So,
I like that they don't have a squirrel in it, but they have a dog.
yeah.
That's good.
If you wanna, I brought a sample if you wanna play with it at all, but other than that, I would ask that you accept the donation and acknowledge them.
So I just have to ask, do you just put them in the front of your shirt?
There
or-
be, we'll have to buy carriers yet. They're designed to carry this. It's not something we're gonna wear all the time, but we'll be able to take on and off quickly if we need it, or if there's a situation that is a little more high risk going into it. So SWAT team wear these on their vests when they're on call outs, but now every deputy will have a set in their squad to be able to put on. So,
That's wonderful.
yeah.
Cool.
Are there any questions or comments on this?
Is it an action item?
It is.
I'll move that.
Thanks, Matt.
Second.
Thanks, Josh. Motion by Matt, second by Josh to accept the donation of the armor. That is an incredible, I mean, a $13,000 gift of armor for our police officers is amazing.
Absolutely.
So tell them we said thank you too, please.
Will do.
No more questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you,
Thank
Jeff. And then Rod, are you gonna do the next one?
I-
Oh, what did you want to say?
Nope, nothing. I was jumping ahead.
Oh,
So Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm Rod Williamson, the jail administrator for the Sheriff's Office. On May 5th, 1984, President Ronald Reagan signed into order Corrections Officer Week Proclamation 5187, recognizing the hard work and complex demands of the corrections officer. So I'm here today to present a request to officially recognize corrections officers of Pine County during National Corrections Officer Week. It's right, we take time out for our special recognition, as corrections officers are oftentimes the unheard and the unseen, but very necessary part of law enforcement. Most people are unaware of what is involved in housing inmates in our county jail and the responsibilities that are placed on our corrections officers. The jail is a complex and ever-changing facility with our main focus on 24/7 safety and security. Corrections officers are also responsible for providing inmates with a multitude of other services such as medical, mental health support, crisis intervention assistance, and an assortment of self-help programming courses and a variety of custodial services, just to name a few. Our officers are highly trained professionals performing their duties in sometimes unfriendly environments, working with individuals who are oftentimes at their lowest. Just in the last few years, we've experienced significant changes to our operation, placing even more responsibilities on the corrections officer. With the rise of mental health, mental illness in our communities, we're finding an increased number of individuals in crisis landing in our jails, requiring enhanced skills and abilities of our officers to properly care and manage for that population. I'm very proud of the expert work our corrections officers provide each and every day, and sincerely appreciate and thank them for all they do for the Sheriff's Office and the citizens of Pine County. So before you today, I present a request to recognize the corrections officers of Pine County during National Corrections Officer Week, this first full week of May, by adopting Resolution 2024-23. Any questions or anything?
any questions or comments for Rod?
I'll move that.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rod.
We got a first by Steve, a second by Matt, right?
Yep.
Write it down fast enough. Are there any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And then we have the Project 35 North of Hinckley. Steve, did you want to talk about that?
Yep, I saw this presentation, MnDOT put it together for work they're doing in Pine County, and I thought it was really well done. And it's gonna affect probably any of us that live around Hinckley, Sandstone to Pine City. And certainly if our friends and relatives are traveling through Pine County, it gets congested around Hinckley anyway. but this will explain this whole project. It's a, in scope, it's not a huge project, but it's gonna take a couple of years and it's gonna really affect traffic. So I think we'll watch it and you'll learn something.
Are we gonna watch it today? Or are we good? Okay.
We're going. Hi, I'm Josie Olson. I am a project manager out of MnDOT's District 1 in Duluth, and we are here today to talk about the project that is ready to be started construction on I-35 near Hinckley, where we are replacing some bridges and replacing some pavement. Next slide. The project includes some work that we had started last year. In the fall, we built some median crossovers to be able to move traffic around. And so those two locations shown by the green dot and the blue dot on the map are the project limits. It starts at the bottom of the screen at the green dot at a median crossover about a half-mile south of Highway 48 at Hinckley and ends about 2 miles north of Hinckley, a little bit north of the railroad bridges north of Hinckley. We'll be replacing 4 bridges with this project, 2 of them over the Grindstone River, 2 of them over the BNSF Railroad, both north of Hinckley on I-35, and doing some bridge repair work at the bridge over Interstate 35 at Highway 48. All the work at Highway 48 will occur underneath the bridge, and Highway 48 traffic will not be impacted at all by this project. In between those bridges, we will be replacing concrete pavement, and this work will occur over 2 years. Next slide. Why is this project being done? If you drive this segment of roadway, it's pretty obvious that the pavement is in poor condition and the bridges are at the end of their useful life. So we're constructing 4 new bridges so that we maintain the function of the roadway and meet current design and construction standards. We're also replacing the pavement, which will improve ride, reduce maintenance cost, and it helps maintain the capacity and the useful life of the highway. Next slide. So as you can imagine, for a project of this size, traffic delays will occur. We are anticipating significant delays during peak times, as this is a really popular travel destination to and from the Twin Cities. And so some of the things that we've incorporated into this project that we hope will help mitigate the traffic impacts are changeable message signs to let people know what's happening for closures and impacts. We'll encourage doing the zipper merge. We'll have intelligent signage that tells you when there's a backup and encourages stopping when the lights are flashing so that you're aware of backups in front of you. And we'll be getting information out on our website with press releases, and there's also an email list that you can join on our website that will push information to you as soon as the website is updated. There will be some need for short-term closures of the ramps at Highway 48. The ramps are included in the project, repaving the ramps, and so those short-term closures will occur, and we will be detouring ramp traffic over to Highway 61, and Andy will get into the details on that in the next few slides.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Dostal. I'll be the construction project supervisor. The way that we're going to build this project is through basically using 3 different stages. The link at the top of the page, that is the project website, and it'll have updates throughout the entire 2 years, and all the pictures and maps that I'm going to show from here on out in the presentation are also included on that website. If you can't remember that website or you don't get a chance to write it down, if you Google MnDOT I-35 Hinckley Bridges, it'll be one of the first links that show up. So next slide. For stage 1, this is just a map of the entire project area. We are doing work outside this project area to try to mitigate traffic congestion, but this is just on the project. So the first stage, you can see that it's going to start in May and it should end sometime in early August of 2024. We do have ramp closures for the northbound on and off ramps. Those are required to be completed in 15 working days once the contractor shuts them down. And I will go over the detours for them. And during this stage, both the northbound Grindstone River and the northbound BNSF Railroad bridges will be removed and be rebuilt. Next slide. So sometime in early August, once the northbound Grindstone River bridge is complete, we'll also have the northbound ramps and the south end of the project complete, and we will switch traffic on the south end. So the red is the closed side and the blue is showing where traffic will be. So there will be a crossover in the middle of the project while we continue to finish the northbound railroad bridge. And this work's going to take place between August and October. I don't have any ramp closure dates, but the southbound on and off ramp both also have a 15-day working day time limit. And the detours will be in effect for those ramp closures as well. Next slide. The final stage of the project will be just completing the work on the southbound BNSF bridge. And again, the red shows where the work zone is. So it'll only be the north portion of the project and only on southbound. So traffic will have a short head-to-head on the northbound side. Well, from May through September to complete that bridge, but the length of it is very short. Next slide. Yep. So this is just a refresher of the approximate timeframes. We don't have an approved schedule yet, but those are fairly close. Next slide. Now, we are doing a lot of things to try to address the congestion that we know we will see on I-35, especially on Fridays, Sundays, and holiday weekends. One of the things that we're going to do is a temporary roundabout at the intersection of 61 and 23. This is on the west side of the Mora exit. So you can kind of see the plan sheet in the lower right-hand portion of the screen. That intersection will be repaved and striped into a roundabout, and that'll remove the stop sign on 61, and hopefully that can help reduce some congestion. Another thing that we're doing during stage 1 is on the Highway 48 on-ramps, the Highway 48 southbound on-ramp. We added extra pavement last fall during that crossover project, and while traffic is on the southbound head-to-head, from that on-ramp heading south for the length of the project, we're going to use that extra pavement as a second southbound lane. That will allow ramp traffic to not delay mainline traffic and hopefully get people off Highway 48 a little quicker. Next slide. This is a map showing the ramp detours. So for anything south of 48, you'll use County 61 from the Mora exit into downtown Hinckley. And for the ramps on the north side, you'll use County 61 from Sandstone. And again, this is during the 15-day working day closures. One will be happening earlier in the summer and one will be happening later. Another thing that we're gonna do to try to alleviate congestion, this is specifically on northbound, is we've put an alternate route in place. So anybody coming northbound on I-35, if they're planning to use the 48 exit and the backup is significant, they'll be able to take the signed alternate route. They can take the Baroon exit and use County 14 and County 15 to access Highway 48. And they won't have to wait in the backups on northbound traffic. Another thing that that's fine. Another thing that we're doing, Josie kind of touched on this a little bit. We have intelligent work zone system in place. So there will be, early backup warnings. And during stage 1 on the northbound on-ramp, we will be using ramp metering. So there will be a flashing signal light that allows one car at a time to use the ramp to merge onto I-35. And that is to try to keep the mainline northbound traffic flowing without merging traffic. Next slide. So this is just a summary of all the different work on this job. It's complicated, and we're updating the pavement, the bridges, the drainage, signs, everything involved with the freeway traffic. And this is just a picture of some similar work types. Next slide. Some statistics for the job. You can see that we're going to be placing over 28,000 cubic yards of concrete on this project. We'll be installing more than 13,000 tons of blacktop. We'll put in almost 23,000 feet of new traffic barrier. That's both guardrail and cable median barrier. We'll be installing 60,000 feet of rumble strips and 5,000 feet, almost 1 mile of bridge beams. Next slide. So all that work, the awarded contract is $27.85 million. Then I broke up that total, and you can see that 17 million of it is for the grading and paving portion. About 300,000 for the repair of the 48 bridge. 2.3 million for both northbound and southbound Grindstone River bridges. Those are single span bridges. And then $8 million for both the railroad bridges. And those are 3-span bridges, both of them. As part of the contract, we also have incentives and bonuses. So on certain stages, the contractor could earn up to a maximum of $280,000 if they finish early. But I will say that the schedule on this project is very tight, and it's going to be difficult to do that. There's also incentives in the contract for good performance, for smooth riding concrete or high quality materials so that the road lasts longer. The contract has been awarded to Michaels Road and Stone, and they are from Brownsville, Wisconsin. And with that being said, there's my contact info. I'll be involved in the project from start to finish. And my email address and my phone number are there. That's my cell phone. And you can call me anytime if there's problems, and we'll try to correct them as soon as possible while taking into consideration all the other aspects of the project. Thank you.
Thanks. I think this is the third time I've seen this but I find it interesting because we talk about our 5-year plan here at the county and how important it is to have 5 and 10-year plans and continuous funding, because you can't put together that's a pretty small section of 35, and it's a $27 million project. You can't put something like that together just by saying, oh, maybe next year we should do this. I mean, Anyway, thanks for listening.
Well, I get to do a roundabout on a regular basis now, I guess.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how Josh is gonna come from his house and get to Napa.
Yeah, he might just
Gonna
want to
go around
take
and
the back road,
around a
but yeah.
couple of times.
Uh,
Gonna have
Do you-
to invest in a helicopter.
Right. Do you want to add anything about County Roads 14 and 15? Is there anything that you want to add as for this project?
Well, we did make that improvement on 15, so the state gave us some money to do that, so that was a positive. I think they're used to traffic on the peak times out there with the casino traffic, so. But there'll be it's a 2-week situation. I know there were some concerns in Hinckley at the intersection of the east-west and north-south 61 there. But, temporary, changes at intersections can be kind of dangerous. I think what they're proposing, that roundabout at 23, and 61 is that type of intersection, you're coming in, you're kind of coming to a curve down at the end there. So people are slowing down or they're getting on the freeway or getting on the freeway. So there's a little bit
They'll
slower
figure
condition
that
there.
out.
But we will be maybe looking at a roundabout or two at some point. If you guys are interested in roundabouts, I guess this can kind of be a test case and see how it goes at that intersection.
If
More investment up front, but in the long run, you don't have the signals and things to maintain. But you need a lot of right of way.
If it works, Mark, or they just make it permanent?
My experience with MnDOT, if it works, no, they'll, I mean, to me, that would have been more logical, but they have their standards and they probably need more right of way, is my guess, is why it isn't permanent. It's not gonna be the normal lane widths and things for the semis and things to be. But I think that would be a good option at that intersection
I
when
do
you
too.
look at it. You know,
It's
and you
tough
think
to-
about the traffic motions there.
Yeah.
So, but
Thanks.
yep.
We'll let you know how that works out, right, Josh? Thanks for having that brought up today, Steve. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. We are on our budget report for the first quarter.
All right, and I won't read anything negative into Commissioner Hallen's leaving as I get up to speed. But I have to editorialize on the roundabout. So in Deerwood, where Highway 6 goes into 210 several years ago, they put a temporary roundabout because of some construction and detours. And it flowed so much better with a temporary roundabout than it did with a permanent stop sign.
Did they
It's my-
keep it?
No,
No.
no, heavens,
There you go, Mark.
just like Mark said. I thought it worked out. It was easier the trafficability was easier. But anyways, so this is the first quarter budget update. It's early in the year. It's a good time to just do a quick check-in. There's no concerns that I or the department heads have. This is chart number 1. This is the one that I did that correction for. So if you see HHS, that red line, that is at 6% in your packet, but it should be at 18%. But it's not a bad number. And so at this point, everything is looking good overall at our major funds. Mark, as you can see, highway got some cash early in the year, but they have peaks and valleys based on the timing of when the state money and the federal money flows in. Chart number 2, this just looks at the general fund departments that get a lot of revenue. This is where Kelly always likes to show off because she does all those transfers early in the year. And so it looks really good that they're at like 98%, but for the most part, those are internal transfers. They're not external revenues. The other lines pretty much represent external revenues, and they're all looking, where they should at this point in the year. Planning and zoning looks high. There's some grant money and some pass-through funds for the One Watershed, One plans that run through there that make that look pretty healthy at this point. These are the general fund departments, looking just at expenditures, and every year IT and recorder at this point look like they're high because they do not have a straight line spending over the year. They pay upfront on the annual contracts. And so
Budget reserves.
And so it looks bad, but it's really not. Everyone else is looking right about where they should at this point in the year. Chart 4, this just looks a little bit deeper at health and human services in their major areas, income maintenance, social services, public health, and then overall. And then I have a note on the sales tax in the packet. We know from the highway update that the sales tax is looking pretty good at this point. It should end sooner than 2035 if current trends hold, but it's really driven by the total amount of money. So it's not like faster collections increases the amount of tax. It just shortens the duration. But it does give a lot of flexibility as to the timing of projects. You can pretty much continue to do the projects as Mark has them scheduled. And then the ARPA spending, we have to assign all of the funds by the end of this year. We have done that. As part of our early 2025 budget process, we'll want to look at our ARPA spending very closely, and any money that it doesn't look like we will have spent by the end of 2026, we will want to consider reallocating. And we have the top project on there is the jail project. We know we're not in any bonding bill at this point. And so we are going to have to give consideration to Plan B, and what does Plan B look like? Rod's still here. I'm sure he was waiting to hear that. But I think the facility committee this summer and fall will need to start to have conversations on what does the jail project look like without bonding in 2024. Any other questions on the ARPA spending? Those projects that we're working on? I'm looking at we have some money in there for software upgrades. I think the technology committee can talk about that. Also might be a source of funding for IT 2025 budget spending if we need to close budget gaps. And I need to look at my paper because I can't read that chart that far away. The $47,000 for that line number 7, we have that in the hopper for that state deed grant for childcare that Leslie has talked about. So if that grant comes through, that money will be spent on that. The broadband money, it only shows we've spent $14,000. We know we recently approved $143,000 for East Central. So should their round 10 border to border grant come through, that'll take $143,000 out of that number. And then they are working on a plan to come back for the other $143,000. We probably will still have a little money in there that is unspent for the initial designation with Starwire, as their project did not get approved. And so that's another thing as we're looking forward over the summer and fall, we'll have conversation on potentially reallocating those funds. Any thoughts or comments or questions on the ARPA money?
On the jail project, Dave? So if we have, do we have to have it committed to a plan then by the end of 2024?
Committed to a
How can we
purpose.
assign it?
Yeah, assigned to a purpose. So it could be as broad as jail improvements. It doesn't have to be so specific as
Okay,
particular.
yeah, we might not have that by then, okay. Hopefully we.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, are you okay? That boot gets in the way. All right, so we can go on to commissioner updates. So we have East Central Regional Library audit.
Hey.
Oh, go ahead. Yes.
Madam Chair, can I just, I'm confused here because there's in my packet, when I printed it off, there was but it's from the April meeting, the Obastar Trail 70. Did we pass that in April?
LEP.
Yeah.
Yes.
I-
Madam Chair, we approved a limited use permit for the Overstar Trail segment that goes across Trunk Highway 70 to the Rock Creek. City
I was
Center.
just confused if this was something else we had to do, or if we did it and it was showing up as a,
Didn't see it in my packet.
maybe.
Yes, please.
Maybe I hit the wrong button and got last.
Yes, date would be
Yeah,
Yes, I got approved at the last.
oh, that's what I thought, but I didn't want to have it missed.
You know, I get that. I have so many papers at my house that it's like, what do I need to grab? Yeah. Yeah.
I must have grabbed the wrong.
I get that. Okay, so East Central Regional Library Audit Survey. I met with the auditors that did East Central and, you know, their basic questions are, do you have any concerns? Do you think that there's anything going on? But it was kind of fun because on a different group that we're having on, we have some issues with an audit. And so to be able to say, okay, I want to know how you do your audit to make sure that it's thorough. And then to compare it with what I know from Pine County when they do their audit here. So I don't think the auditor knew what they were running into when he called, but it was interesting to talk to them. Discover East Central Minnesota, your point of opportunity. Did anybody go to that?
No.
Okay. ICWA check-in, that was, it was the county's check-in to see where we're at with the ICWA. And what they really wanted us to do was to write a letter. They wanted all of us as individuals to write letters that were on the ICWA Legislative Committee to support what was going on, but there were some key issues that we weren't really supporting. The guardian ad litems actually said no to some things, so they got taken out. The Association of the County's Attorneys, they had some questions on how it was going to work out, and I'm sure Human Services did too. So what they ended up doing was throwing that in with the Human Services big packet. So it's just going to get approved with part of that, but they had to take out those issues that other people had, which was a good thing, and they'll work on that next year.
Where are we at with, what's the term they use, where the tribe is gonna take over?
Initiative,
Huh?
initiative.
Initiative, yeah.
Um,
Are they gonna become initiative?
You know, we just got an email from them, gosh, was that like last week? Stating that the state is saying that they're just not ready.
That's what I thought I saw something fly in
Yeah.
an email. or
Chair,
something.
Yeah.
there was a note in the Friday update.
That's what it was.
Just
Yeah.
communicating the state's information that they got from the band, that the Mille Lacs Band is not on track or planning to be an initiative tribe by January 1st, 2025. And I don't know any more on that.
So that's gonna affect our budgeting,
Mhm.
kind of.
Yeah, in essence, it means no change for us.
We're gonna be status quo.
yeah, that,
Going
that's
forward, yeah.
what I got.
Yeah.
But I can say that Becky just went over there, gosh, 2 weeks ago, I want to say, and did some training with their staff on how to use the SSIS system and to get stuff in. So we got this after that. Becky, do you have anything more to add on that? Have you heard any more? Are they still willing to continue moving forward?
I haven't heard any more. So I got that update from the Minnesota Department of Human Services. Earlier, I had gone to the Mille Lacs Band Family Services Department, provided SSIS training. They did some training and modules before I provided training. So just taught them how to navigate basic things in SSIS on tribal jurisdiction cases. And I have been asked to come back and do a mini training again for those who weren't there that day. So I do plan on doing that in the near future.
That's positive.
Thank you.
Yeah. NACO Telecommunication and Technology, and what they spent a whole bunch of time actually talking about was how we need to be prepared with our ARPA funds. And it's just really refreshing to be able to sit there and smile and say, yep, we got that. They did talk about the legacy of the 911 going to the Generation X 911. They talked about the DOC, the final rule on website accessibility, and there was a seminar that was done through them yesterday that Ryan attended. So we will hear someday as to how that works, but that is helpful too, because there's going to be some new regulations coming through the federal government on our websites. And then just to have our IT department on top of that is a good thing. Arrowhead Counties Association.
I did not make it.
Okay.
I'm having a conflict the last 3. I always try to make them, but sometimes I just can't.
Yeah, well, we appreciate all the ones that you do make. Pine County Education Leadership, that was Steve and Josh and I went to. One of you guys want to go with that?
I thought the presentation, they were all good,
Mhm.
but the one that the lady from SCRED did
Yes.
was really spot on, and I think they touch all of the schools in the county. and to know how our county people tie into their system and all the school system is, we're all joined at the hip and we're all in this together. And I think we all understand that we need to help each other to, and I think we are. I think I'm very encouraged by that.
Where are we with the SRO?
Jeff report, I mean, what indications that I have read, what Jeff is hearing from his association is that that'll be fixed and they will be back in. We did make reference that, you guys referencing to the school districts that you'll be paying for that next year.
Are they there now?
The officers are quite present there, but they are not
So they're still in the building?
They're there a lot.
Okay.
But they're not official SROs.
No, but
And so,
they're part of the
They
county.
just
still, so
didn't-
it's not
The
a big deal.
relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Ludwig, so we will have to update the agreements with the schools. And I believe the sheriff's intent is to do that for fall, so that we can be back 100% in the fall. And as you're thinking of the 2025 budget or the 2024 budget, we did budget half a year's revenue in the 2024 budget, assuming that there would be the outcome that it has turned out, that we'll have them back in and the schools will be paying for that service starting in the fall. And then just to add a note, the SCRED Executive Director is Nicole Woodward, just for the record.
Okay, thanks. So I couldn't remember her name.
But I had to bring it up.
Yeah, thanks.
I think one of the things that I thought was interesting that night was, we talk about how, they're very over budget. And so, you talk about the mandates that they've been given and what they have to do and how, the laws are passed and they don't think about really the full assets of what's going to happen with the laws that they pass. And then how that, is an issue for the people that have, like us, or the schools or the townships or whomever. But, one of them was, we were talking about curriculum. Steph brought up from East Central that she has an employee that is very curriculum driven. Everything is very to the top, but the new curriculum that they have for one of their classes, she just won't use it. And so it's going to cost them thousands of dollars to get the curriculum because it's not on that list. And so then it's good to know that our schools are watching out for our kids and that they're not just taking what's given to them, but it's costing them a lot of money to stand up and say no. Anything to add, Josh?
Just we're pretty fortunate to have a good group like that in this county, where you had everybody attend, including the college. And Joe gave a update on their expansion and everything. But it is sad to see that the schools are in, they're funding wise, they're hurting bad. So, and like they said, I think for every new dollar, it costs them 1.5 or something like that, that they got.
Where are we funding the graduates? Are we still doing that there
I think that's.
to the college?
The money was done the end of the year, was spent.
Actually, I'm talking at their commencements next Friday. And it's our last group of kids, or do we have one more group of kids that are, this is?
I believe this is the last group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even say kids, of adults, because they're all adults now, aren't they? That are going to be graduating, so.
One figure I did see from Pine Tech was that we affected 81 students with our scholarship program.
That's amazing.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I've just maybe to close the loop on that, right? We modeled our program after the Franzen
Right.
program. The state of Minnesota North Star Promise Scholarship Program was modeled after ours,
Okay.
right? So we still have now statewide, if you meet the income requirements, you can attend any state institution at no tuition.
But wasn't he talking about that too? And ours covered books and other things, and this is not necessarily going to cover the housing, those things.
Right, so there still will be expense.
Yeah.
But I think the direction that Joe was talking about going is making sure that they have funds available to help out those students who now the tuition is paid for, so the college doesn't have to use grants and foundation money or whatever for those. They can focus on some of those other needs. And so the scope of what they have to fund has maybe been reduced quite a bit.
There is one quirk that has come up in that system, the way I understand it. The state, even though they modeled it after what we were doing, they didn't get it all completely right. So our system and Dennis Franson's system says that after all other grants are used, then we'll come in and be the last payer. The state one doesn't say that, so that the people that donate to a scholarship for a kid to go to Pine Tech, the state says you got to spend that first, and then we'll fund the remainder. So it's kind of a reverse thing. So they're trying to get that ironed out. It's not going to get ironed out for this group of students, but I think they'll figure it out sooner or later.
AMC Board of Directors,
Oh, wait,
oh, go ahead.
the school county government day.
Yep, that's what we were just talking about.
Oh,
Oh, no, I crossed it off on air. That was you. Sorry.
I was here for that. So I remember David and I did a fabulous job. And I think no students had hit the table when we were talking. But when Adrienne Weimer, I don't know if you know her, when she came in and talked about her job as working with child protection, she had an immediate connection to that group of kids. And David and I talked to two groups and had probably one question from a faculty member. Adrienne spent the entire time answering questions, and they were really good questions. They were spot on questions, because I think they could relate, for one thing, to Adrienne, because she's not terribly much older than the kids. She'd probably beg to differ with you, but I think all of those students understood what she was talking about, and they probably all can relate to somebody that they know has been touched by child protection. And I found it very interesting, and she did a fabulous job, and I think, you know, she's one of our worker bees, and she's in the trenches, and she just does wonderful work. And I think sometimes we've got all these employees and we forget how marvelous they are. I mean, they really are. I just marvel at that.
Thank you. Now we'll go to NACO, or the AMC Director Board. One of the things that they applied for, gosh, quite a bit ago, like last year sometime, was the McKnight grant, which we found out that we have been awarded. And so what it's going to do is it's going to run for 2 years. And then they can help us they won't do our grant writing, but they can help us know when grants are available. They can help us with questions that we have. And so we'll have a new staff member that's going to be there more for grants through this grant that we got from Ignite. And that grant was for $450,000 for 2 years. So it was a nice chunk of change. We talked a lot about the legislature issues that are coming up, but you ask questions and then it changes the next day because the legislature is just changing so incredibly fast. They have a lot of classes that are coming up. So, you know, and they're just asking the people to do that. They had one that was on May 2nd, so last week, for elections. And they said that it was just loaded, that it was, everybody was signing up for it, so that was really good. The one thing that they did say is that their staff is really getting beat up. You know, it used to be that you could go in there and have conversations with people, and they're not able to go in and have conversations anymore with our representatives. They're being kicked and beat up and treated, not very kindly. So when you see them, please thank them for what they've done, because they've done a lot of work on our behalf. NACO Rural Action Caucus, that one, they talked about rural community development. There's grants available to get safe water and sewer systems, along with many other services to help with, to help us to help our citizens. So if you're looking for any of that, it's the RCD grant. And then counties and tribes and state, one of the things that were brought up at the very end of this session was postal services. If people are having a lot of issues with postal service, Kelly, you can shake your head yes or no if you want, but one of the things that they said is that they'll send out like ballots, or they'll send out tax statements, and people are getting them 2 to 3 months later, so way beyond the date. Is that happening here?
Right, and like I just got some return mail from the post tax statements that were mailed in November, like literally this week.
Oh, wow.
I got from you.
So they are asking if we can keep track of those. And then Senator or Angie Craig, Congressman Angie Craig is actually working on this issue because it's all over the board. So if you can keep track of those whenever you see them, and just let us know, we can get that to who it needs to go to. Snake River Partnership, one plan, we're getting there. We're getting there. If any of you knew Kurt Beckstrom, he did pass away. He had cancer, and he's going to be really missed. He was the chair of the board and has just been there forever, I believe. And so, Lower St. Croix watershed.
Lower St. Croix, we approved a new work plan for the year and some modifications to the proposed plan. They got a big project going on in one of the smaller watershed districts, but you know, the cost to do a project in the metro, I call it the metro area, versus doing one on a farm, it's like astronomically more expensive. So we have to remember that. We hired a new educator, and it was the first day that she started the job. She came to the meeting, so that's always exciting and scary probably for her. We did talk and adopted the open meeting law, because we are an entity that falls under the open meeting law, and there were some probably not, is legal the right word, uses of technology to attend the meetings, where people called in at the last minute or didn't leave their cameras on, and those kinds of things. So we did pass a resolution that we will follow the law.
Right.
Which I don't know. It kind of struck me as almost funny that we have to pass a resolution that we're going to follow the law, but we kind of were just reiterating that we're not above the law.
Right.
We have to
follow.
We have to do our
Sure.
part.
If I could just add a point to that, every board that you are on is not necessarily covered by the open meeting law.
Right.
Most of them probably are, but the reason you might want that resolution, Steve, is so that members are 100% aware of what the expectation is.
And I think, I know you're right, David, because there are entities that are part of that policy board that aren't covered by the open meeting law. So I think it's more for their benefit than the county commissioners that sit on that board.
And my request of you, right, because you are probably as expert or more expert on the open meeting law than some of those other folks who aren't, you know, from county boards. If you have questions or if you have a concern, don't be afraid to ask. Because, you know, I know that our county attorney is really good with understanding where the open meeting law applies and where it doesn't. And there's a lot of nuance to it.
I think a lot of times we get in these meetings and you're so into the meeting that you don't really think about the open meeting law because everybody else should be thinking about it, not me, right?
Yeah.
So David's caught us a couple times when we've been in meetings just saying, oh, you can't do that here. And it's, yeah, I mean, I think we have to keep it in our minds.
think
We have to.
The number one thing is to know for sure if the entity, you're representing the county at an entity, is that entity covered under the open meeting? And I sit on a couple of them that clearly are not covered by the open meeting law, although we kind of follow that same trend, but anyway.
Thank you.
East Central Regional Development Commission, that is JJ, correct? Negotiations for IBEW.
Yeah, we met and we were productive again. We moved. So, but we're still in negotiations. We have another date, right?
Yeah, we have another meeting coming up on the 29th, and there's still discussions going on, but
Okay.
we're getting down.
Good. NLX, we met with Mille Lacs Band before we went in there, and so Sheena and I walked in about 5 to 10 minutes late. And they did not have a quorum until we got there, so they just made it when we walked in the door. But basically, there's going to be a meeting coming up with MnDOT at Mora on the 9th, so next week, from 11 to 12, and they're going to be talking about where they're at with the NLX plan. One of the questions that was asked by, oh gosh, I think it was Karen from the East Central Regional Development Commission was, if you had all the money that you needed to put in the NLX today, how long would it take to get it put in? And they said that it would take approximately 5 years, depending on what they can get for equipment. So it's, I think this is one of those seven generational projects that they talk about with Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures. It's not going to be a tomorrow thing, which is good because then they can plan it and get it done right. So
Is BNS on board yet?
I don't know.
See, that's a thing.
It is, it's their tracks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Thought they
to have,
declared they were, but I thought I read someplace that they said they were on board. But maybe I'm mistaken.
I don't know.
I don't.
when it's going to be upgrading their tracks, because they're saying that they're going to be going 90 miles per hour, maybe a little bit higher in some places. So yeah, for them to get their tracks fixed to do that too is going to be a big one. Mille Lacs Band. Steve, what do you?
I wrote in my notes, because I misread that.
Oh.
About the meeting of the missing and murdered
Indigenous
indigenous people.
Or relatives, yeah.
And
This would be the meeting with Sheena.
yeah,
Okay,
but I really want to talk about the other one.
well, we'll talk about that one too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recall
Yeah.
the highlights from that meeting.
Madam Chair, I think one of the outcomes was that it confirmed Melanie Benjamin was going to attend next week's special meeting to be recognized and sort of conclude her service.
Yeah. She's been such an asset for the counties to be able to work with the tribe and to move forward on a lot of issues that it's gonna be sad to see her go.
Yep.
So that is coming up. Really, what all did we talked about legislature, but there really isn't anything legislature wise to talk about because it's still moving and it changes every moment. We did talk about, I'm taking a resolution to Florida, for the NACO conference to see if we can get PILT money when the federal government puts our land, our land in the tribe's name into trust. I probably phrased that wrong, but that we would get PILT money for that. I think that, you know, one of the big issues that a lot of counties all over the country are having right now is the tribes are stepping up and saying, hey, that's ours. And they're right. You know, we all know, I mean, I look at the housing project in Hinckley, that should be in trust land. We all know that. But we still have to do the vital services. And so it's going to be asking for Congress to give us PILT money for land that goes from the tribes into trust. So we did talk about that, and Jamie said that he'd be willing to work with us on that if we, you know, so that we talked about that for a bit. It was just, it's always nice to get together with them and visit and see what's happening.
Mhm.
Yeah. HR EDA.
Yeah, so we had our meeting on April 24th. And you know, we have the Sandstone building and the Finlayson building. Now the county has, just, I always tell you, there was one opening and that has applicants, so she thinks it'll be filled, but I think she thought it was gonna be filled within a week. Then their operational stuff was going on, the standard. They're gonna do $5,000 worth of concrete work at the Sandstone building just to take care of some water issues and drainage issues and tripping issues for the people that are there. I have my notes. So the Red Path, they approved the audit company for $15,750 for the audit. David presented the investment funds report from, you know, and that's at, there's 614,000, call it $500 in the investment fund. And then the New Rock, there was some discussion on a pass motion and they tried to change a thing there and it ended up staying the same, so nothing really happened there. And then
Oh, David.
I know
can I just-
David, huh?
Can I just add on to that? Because nothing changed, but there was a lot of work that was done.
A lot of work. Yeah, I was gonna try to just breeze over, but yeah.
In April, well, I want to share this because I think you should be proud of the folks you appointed to the.
Yes, yeah, right.
So in March, they approved on a 3-1 vote, doing a $75,000 grant and a $75,000 loan from the revolving loan fund to the New Rock development, the old school. And in their April meeting, one of the members wanted to revisit that decision and give consideration to giving no grant and making it all loan. And they had a very thoughtful discussion of that. That motion to do that did fail 2-2. So you can see how divided it was, a 3-1 and a 2-2, you know, from month to month. So you can see how divided they were, but it was good conversation.
It was.
And people, I think, spoke their positions and everyone understood the issue in the position. And then at the end of the day, there was a lot of respect shown.
Oh yeah, zero arguing, just great discussion. Nobody was upset.
Good.
But, and everybody addressed it really, really well. It's a good board. And then, can I keep going? Oh yeah, so then Dave presented a resolution for the North Court apartment building. So now, you know, we have the two now, we're gonna end up owning another one. So there'll be 3 housing buildings. So they're gonna do that with an internal loan, with their own dollars. So they'll work that like that. And that building has those 8 federal vouchers for housing that are attached to it. So that'll be a steady stream thing there. And they're gonna do they're doing some walkthroughs and have make sure that everything's up to snuff, you know, make it so they'll be probably doing some repairs and fixing it up and stuff like that. Anyway, that's a really good little project there. But yeah, and then let's see. There was some the contract issue. You probably had, there was just a slight change in the contract for Dalton, going from $63 to $69 for the management company. Oh, so it'll be.
Yeah, so we
So
had a
they approved
2-year
all that, yeah.
We had a 2-year contract, it expired. We did a 1-month extension so that we could have the time to do another 2-year extension with a one-time increase of
The management
$6
company,
per occupied unit.
right. the company manages all the apartments.
Right.
So,
Nice.
so that's pretty much it.
Okay. Cybersecurity training. I went with Ryan, which was nice to have him there because he was able to answer questions that I had not a clue. One of the things that they had brought up was the average cost of ransomware recovery is nearly $2 million and does not include paying the ransom. So you think of that, if we have somebody, the biggest chance that you have of getting ransomware is by opening up an email. And so if we have an employee that opens up an email and they can get into some of our information that they should not be getting into, it can cost us nearly $2 million. And then we still have to pay to get that stuff back. So it's an expensive thing, which is why it's so important that we continue doing those trainings online. The thing that was good is they would say, you need to do this and this and this. And I look at Ryan and he would give the thumbs up. We do that, you know, and so we do so many things and we're on top of so many things that just a shout out to our IT guys, because they are keeping us safe and they're keeping us financially more stable because it gets to be a big thing. The emails is a really big thing. That is, like I said, the highest way to get for people to steal your information. So we need to make sure that we stay on top of that. And then a new tactic that they had for people to steal things is they contact employees on personal phones stating that the county isn't paying their like their retirement funds or it's fraudulent and they're attacking people that way on their personal phones too. So it was interesting just hearing what was going on with the things that are there, but there was some really good training and I gave all the information that I got to Josh. If anybody wants to peek at it real quick, you can. I sold everything off the table. State Tribal Partnership Committee meeting. That is, the name's going to get changed because it's not just state and tribal. It includes a lot of people, but this is the committee that the state of Minnesota just got a big federal grant on this. And it's to try to figure out how we can keep our Native American families together and not have kids taken out of home for placement, how we can help make them healthier. So this was actually the second meeting. The first one, they just did a quick Zoom because of the snowstorm. And this was the second meeting. It was held up in Cloquet. Some of the things that they're talking about is having traveling ICWA judges. So instead of having a judge that really doesn't understand ICWA, they can just have certain traveling ICWA judges that'll go all over the place and take care of things. They talked about, has anybody watched the movie Reservation Dogs? I think it's on Walt Disney now, but I got to sit by this gosh, she was just the nicest lady who is from Oklahoma and she travels nationwide helping tribal relations and children and youth. And that was actually filmed in her town. And so I need to sit down and watch that. I think it's going to be really good. But she was from Oklahoma. So, I mean, there were people all over the place that came to help with this. They're trying to figure out federal foster care licensing is simpler than the state laws. The state creates more barriers. So how we can move it around so that families can foster care their grandchildren or whatever. You know, if I've been convicted of a felony 20 years ago, have I changed my life by now? Hopefully, you know, and so can we get them to their family members so that they still have their heritage? So things like that. It's just a good group of people. I wasn't overly excited about it, but it is a really good group of people that have hearts to make things better. Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails Forum legislative update. Were you able to go to that one, Steve?
No,
I wasn't either. Project Rise. Sorry, my notes are all out of order. Project Rise. Just once again, I can't believe how we can get people to work together. So we had the schools were there and it's at 8 o'clock in the morning. So we had superintendents, we had people from the schools, we had county employees, we had probation, sheriff's office was there. Human service employees were there talking about how they can work together for the kids. We're going to be looking at different plans on how to do truancy. It's getting to be an awful lot to have Judge Wynn and then probation people and social workers go to the schools for truancy and trying to figure out if it's really doing as much good as it did in the beginning. So trying to figure out a different thing to do with that. We did talk about the JDAI assessment and we talked about that last time. It's a national program, so it goes all over the place, and they are using a lot of the things that Pine County, that Reese and Terry are doing, and the staff members to just bring to light a lot of the different issues with truancy and working with kids and different probation. The classes that Terry does with people to help them to see what they were doing and what they could do different. It's just a good group of people. Towards zero deaths.
It wasn't the best attended meeting in the world, but I did see that movie again, the doctor. And we did talk about things that we could improve upon in Pine County to make our roads safer.
It'll be interesting to see where that goes. Human Service Leadership Forum, that was at the same time that Pete Stauber was in town with the congressional hearing. And so I went to the congressional hearing instead. And they'll be sending me information because I explained why I couldn't be there. The field hearing with Congressman Stauber, do you want to go? You wanna
I
talk?
will. I'll keep it short. It was really formal. It was just it wasn't a public interaction thing. The federal congressional people sat just like this, and the state legislative and the testifiers sat like that, and they just had testimony from each individual and then input. It was really good. I thought it was really, really good. The people representing the state, I should say states, because it's Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, did a great job on testifying impact. And to me, the most interesting testimony was from the two on the Endangered Species Act. And they were so credentialed, and they went through their whole life history. They were biologists and fisheries people and DNR people, and then they rose to the federal level. One worked at the Department of Interior, and that the PhD guy, the doctor.
Yeah.
And anyway, he explained that we should be celebrating
Yes.
the recovery underneath these act, and the act isn't designed to keep something on there permanently. So it was really good. You didn't get a chance to have much interaction with anybody because it was so formal. And then it was off to the races to go somewhere else as soon as they were done their packed lunches.
Oh, they had to get down to the airport. They were
Yeah.
going home.
But it was good. It was worth going to. I'm really glad I went.
Yeah.
And I thought our state legislators did a great job. Nathan did a great job. And the Wisconsin.
Nathan had them all come out to his house prior to this meeting and showed them, I mean, they were able to show them wolf prints in their yards, or in their yard, and talk about what it's done to their herd of cattle. And they did talk a lot about that, the stress that it creates for the animals to have to, the one from Oregon, he was talking about all the wolves that chased, was it 300 cattle out of their fence and took them for miles, just scattered them for miles. Before they were finally able to get them back. So they were talking about it. We had, let's see who all was there. We had Oregon, Utah. We had Michelle Fishback, who's from Western Minnesota, and then Wisconsin, Tom Tiffany from Wisconsin. But I mean, they were from all over the place. But one of the things, when we talk about, yes, we can celebrate the fact that they're not endangered anymore. There's 6,000 wolves in Canada, and you can shoot in all of but 2 of their areas, and they still can't get the numbers down. That's the wolf population today. It was very interesting to hear. And then I went home and I did send an email to Tina Smith and Amy Klobuchar, just asking them to watch that hearing and to support delisting the wolves, because
She's gonna be the swing, or and she is satisfied in the old law when they had it with the 1,500 number for the
right
cutoff. So I think, and this whole hearing is based totally on delisting at the federal level, the states out of it.
Right.
And that's just for that Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, that wolf pack.
Yeah.
That's it. So,
yeah.
So we'll see.
I did hear back from Amy. I never did hear back from
Yeah.
Tina, but I did send them emails just asking them to watch that hearing and to listen to the people that are being affected.
I would
So,
like to add one more thing.
Yeah,
Cause I mean, I think we always probably knew it, but those two, but, wildlife guys that were testifying, both mentioned that the timber wolf is an apex predator. Nothing hunts or kills the apex
Right.
timber wolf. Bears, nothing does. They actually can take a kill away from a bear,
yeah.
you know, cause they have a pack usually that does that. But man is the only thing that
And
hunts.
take care of them. Yeah, that was really interesting. It was, yeah, I have a lot of notes if anybody wants to talk more about it. It was, really good to get that invite and to be able to go up there and be a part of that and
Mhm.
see how that worked. Pine Technical Community College groundbreaking.
Oh, it was wonderful. Josh and I were there. It was a way bigger crowd than I expected. I don't know what I expected, but there was a lot of people there. From the area that I recognize from their foundation, because I've been to some of their other functions, I recognize some of their people. And the people from the state office and Senator Rarick spoke, and you know, he said it was the easiest bill he's ever sponsored to defend, because nobody could say, what are you doing? When you look at the numbers and you look at the geography of our area, we deserve the very best in East Central Minnesota. And so it's gonna be an exciting addition, and they're hoping to actually start here in a few weeks, so they're finishing up all the documents and stuff, so, and I've heard from at least 2 local contractors that they got work out of because they hired a general contractor, and so a couple of local people got work there.
Oh, that's great. That's one of the big questions. Are you gonna
Yeah.
hire local?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, and they are, so.
So another thing that happened, Matt, because you weren't there at the school when we met with the schools, is Joe gave a presentation on, he showed pictures of what's gonna happen for the facility where the apartments are gonna be for the kids that are gonna be going there, and then the upgrade to the college and stuff too. So we were able to see all of that information while we were there, expanded, which is, I get excited about it. AMC Board of Directors Chair Meeting. Oh, yes, please. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
The groundbreaking, how many do you think were there? At least 100?
At least.
Yeah, so I just think it was a huge testament to Joe, his work in that college to get this expansion done. And it was a team effort of, you know, Jason and Nathan and a lot of other people as well, but I just think we're so very fortunate to have that going on in our county, that I'm just real proud of it, and it'll be good when it's done, and I'm excited, so.
You know what the cool part is to go to Wellia Clinic and have one of the nurses help you, and you know, and they grew up here, they went to high school here, and now they've got their nursing degree and they're working here. It's pretty cool.
It is. It is. We have come a long way here in Pine County.
Yeah.
We've got so many people working throughout the whole county to make it a better place to be, and it's showing. We had a meeting yesterday. It was for all of the county chairs and the administrators within District 1 from AMC. And it was to talk about what we want to hear about or what we feel that we should be talking about when we get together at the end of the month at our District 1 meeting. So some of the things that were brought up was the ambulance service. Somebody had asked about doing a separate taxing district for their ambulance service. So that's one of the things that they're talking about. I don't know if they're going to talk about that at that meeting or not, or if they were just going to get them information as to how that would work. We'll be doing the legislative summary for sure, extension services, because there is going to be a bump in the memo of understanding that's going to be coming from extension, and the majority of it is going to be for 4-H. And what he said is it's kind of just bringing the 4-H up to where the ag educators are, which makes sense. And talk about the forfeiture. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about at that meeting or hear about that would be important? Or one of the things that they are going to be asking about is something that we're proud of within our county. So, I mean, Pine Technical College is a huge display of that, but we have so many other things that are going on too. But think about that too. And then cannabis. Okay, anything else you want to talk about
Oh.
or learn about? Or
Other subjects?
no, on that,
On
at the District 1 meeting, is there anything else that is something you want to learn more about?
I think the cannabis thing, what are we gonna do? Is there anything we should be doing or should we wait for the state?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Can I make a couple of comments on that? And I know we've had some public testimony regarding cannabis. And as I understand it, and as the Office of Cannabis Management confirmed within the last 2 weeks, with the provisional licenses, should they be or not the provisional, the equity, I'm sorry, with the equity licenses, should they be awarded, it only allows for those licensees to do planning work. They cannot touch the plant is the phraseology that they use. So they can't touch the plant. They can start to do there's preparation for their business planning, do they have to get zoning approval? Do they need a building that has certain requirements, et cetera? They can work on the planning piece, not the touching piece. And with regard.
So nobody, if they get that provisional, whatever, that special drawing or whatever they have, and they get a license, it's a planning grant license. They're not gonna put plants in the ground and start growing.
That is my understanding, and I'm caveating this very heavily because there's still almost 2 weeks left of the legislative session, and they can always change the law, right? So the piece that I think was confusing, and Denise Weiss, is that her name, who was here and then at the meeting before?
Yeah.
And at the one meeting, she was quoting from the newspaper. It was a Star Tribune opinion piece that I think the director or the interim director of the Office of Cannabis Management made what I think could be misleading statements, right? That you get this equity license and then you can start to do business. Under the current law, that is not allowed. So just to add a little clarity to that, on the moratorium, it's my understanding that any moratorium we put into effect expires January 1st, 2025. And nobody can do actual work with the product, cultivating or selling, et cetera, until January 1st, 2025. So the utility of a moratorium just doesn't seem to make sense. And again, I might learn differently, and then, whether we want to do a moratorium or not can certainly be on the table. Zoning regulation is allowed, but from our perspective of a county, we don't have countywide zoning, right? So we're not going to amend our zoning ordinance in a way that has much of an impact. It's really going to rely on the cities and the townships that have zoning. I think it is possible for the county to consider an ordinance that would regulate the few things that can be regulated. So if you wanted to limit the number of retail outlets to 1 per 12,500 people, you could do that in a countywide ordinance. A city would have the authority to issue additional licenses if they wanted, irregardless of the total number. You can use zoning authority, but that doesn't work for us. I think we could do an ordinance that would still impose the minimum requirements of state law that are an option for distance from daycare, distance from school, and distance from playground. And so we could potentially do an ordinance countywide that would limit the total number of retail licenses and would require those minimum setbacks or distances from those activities. But Go ahead, Matt.
So do we have to allow a minimum, right?
Yes, you cannot, so in zoning, it's a lot like an adult use, right? Where you cannot absolutely zone it out of existence. It will not occur in our jurisdiction, but you can regulate where it goes. And so we're just hamstrung because we don't do zoning. So we, to say that a grow facility is an industrial use and can only be in an industrial zone, well, that doesn't work for us. So we have a lot to learn. The other problem that comes out of this is the rules, right? The administrative rules are not written. The Office of Cannabis Management has said that nobody can do anything until the rules are written and approved through that rulemaking process. That probably doesn't happen until first quarter 2024. Well, until the rules are written, we don't know what the rules are, so it's hard to react.
You mean 2025?
2025,
Okay,
yep.
okay.
First quarter 2025. So to sum up, I'm sorry, this has gone on way longer than it should have. We owe, I think, staff some feedback to you and then a topic on an upcoming agenda to outline a little more formally what the options are, what the law is as we understand it, what the rules likely are going to include, and then give you a chance to make some decisions and direction before January 1st, 2025.
I think, because it is going to be a discussion at the District 1 meeting after the legislature's done, and it's going to be from the people that have been in those rooms. I think it'd be a good discussion to have after that meeting when we
Yeah.
can hear from
Yeah.
Ryan and Matt and all those guys, what's really happening.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, Steve, you are on others.
I'm on others. Here's what I have on others, actually, we went, Terry and Becky and I ended up at a seminar, I guess, activity at the Mille Lacs band, missing and murdered Indigenous
Relatives.
relatives.
Yeah.
Okay. It was really something I wish everybody could see. The topic set aside was, I was so impressed with the enthusiasm in the room and the willingness of all the natives to come, mostly natives. There were non-natives there also, but to come and express their opinions about the people that have been forgotten. It reminded me of the missing in action movement that we had during the Vietnam War, where we had these missing people and they weren't declared dead and they were just missing at that point. And we have a lot of that happening throughout the Native community. Not so much just, they weren't speaking just for their own people. It was for the whole nation.
Right.
But the other thing we got was some real FaceTime with Virgil, the new chief, which really is what we wanted to do. And I got a good warm fuzzy out of that. And to see him interacting with the other tribal members there, and I thought it was great. A young lady from the Hinckley school system spoke very, very well spoken.
Let's say she's an 8th grader.
I think so.
Yeah, she was really good.
Really good, really good. And it was a wonderful day, and I'm so glad Terry encouraged me to go home because
And Becky was just a surprise. Like it's like, oh, we could have all ridden together.
Yeah.
But that was a great surprise to see you there.
and thank you, because I think, and thanks for coming, Becky, because I think it's so important that we show up to those kinds of events to show that we really are interested in what their issues are. And it's an issue for them, and we can help.
You know, one of the things that I had read a long time ago is that you can kidnap a Native woman or child, and you can turn them into so many different nationalities because of their skin tone and their black hair, and you can make them into a lot of different, you know, so for sex trafficking and that type of stuff, they are one of the hot commodities for people to kidnap, which just makes you sick. They did say that in our area, Mille Lacs Band, there is not a lot of missing. There's a couple, but not like in the metro area or North Dakota, I think. They deal with quite a few over there. But it was, and then the lady that works for the MMIR, where was she? Was she out of,
Southwest Minnesota.
was she from down there? But she's like, I didn't realize that there's a whole organization that is
Yeah.
just MMIR. And then she came and she talked to, there was a rapper. He didn't call himself a rapper. He called himself what was he?
I can't remember.
To me, he's a rapper.
Yeah.
But
But
he
he
did-
was a young guy who grew up in Isle, went to high
Mhm.
school in Isle. Very well spoken.
Yep.
Um,
His dad died of I want to say an overdose when he was 15 years old. So he talked about the anger that went with that. You know, and that's when they talk about murdered. They also talked about the drug addiction and the murders from the drugs. So they brought that up and talked about that too. But he did a couple of his own songs that he had written. There was a dance. We all danced. She laughs.
Yes, we found out Steve and Commissioners Holland and Lovegren have more rhythm than your HHS director, so good job. And just a shout out to the commissioners who were there too. I know that our board does a really good job of thanking staff, but I think we can turn that around and thank our board members who were there, because I don't know that happens every day in their community, and that meant a lot to the Mille Lacs Band. The rapper's name is Eldation Big Bear. Looked him up. And some of his videos, it actually shows the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe Ublum and some of the kids that seem to be local kids, the Isle High School. So that was really, really neat. And one of the speakers, Commissioner Lovegren, you mentioned, the state actually has an office dedicated to this issue. I don't remember her name, but she was from not from DHS, but a state office solely delegated to MMIR, and is a member of the Lower Sioux Indian community. So it was really great to hear her there and speak too.
We're gonna start seeing Mille Lacs Band's license plates having MMIR signage. It's not signage, but just to remember the missing and murdered. So they're doing a lot of cool things there. It was a fun day. It was good. Any others?
I got one other. We get to do a lot of neat things.
I had Debbie put all my others on this time, no.
But I got a call from Dylan Carlson from Carlson Timber.
Yes.
And so I met with his dad, Dave, and Dylan, and Mike Gaynor, and John Kalish from the landfill. And they have started branching off of from the timber industry into kind of waste management things, and they're not a waste management, but they do because they're good at grinding stuff up, because they've ground up timber for years. So at Duluth and at that Cloquet site now, they haul the trash away from there. But before they haul it away, they process it some, so they get it really compacted, and they do a lot of sorting. And I think that's something to really pay attention to, and maybe we can work with them. Mike Gaynor was still talking to him when I left, and about maybe getting rid of our brush, and you know, because they're used to that. It's nothing for them to crush up a semi load of branches and trees in a few minutes, you know, and haul it down the road.
You get a
They-
lot more in there when you crush
They-
it up too, or
They
grind it
did,
up.
they did say, you know, that their industry has changed a lot. And when they quit burning wood at the power plants in the metro area, they used to burn wood chips. They hauled I might be misquoting, but I think I'm right, like 120 semi-loads a week to those burners. And now it's done. And so now they have people in the cities calling them almost daily, wondering if they can get rid of their wood, because they got no, for this waste wood, what do you do with it? And they do, one of their businesses is making wood chips for playgrounds. But they just don't grind up used wood. It's very specific. They gotta peel pine, and then they chip it and they treat it and they color it. And so, you know, it's not something they're gonna get, you know, they're, I don't know what we're gonna do with all this waste wood. But if we can keep it out of the landfill, we're better off. And so that's what, you know, some of these things take a long time, but you gotta plant the seed, and you gotta get the ideas flowing, you gotta get the right people to think about it. And hats off to Carlson Timber for bringing it to our attention, and maybe there's a partnership there we can make good down the road. You know, it was fun. It was fun meeting with them.
Sounds like it'll be something we can work into. All right. Anybody else have anything else they'd like to add for today? Well, we will adjourn. Thank you for